Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me as usual, Alistair McKenzie. Hello Alistair, how are you?
I'm not doing too badly, thank you. Good to finally be starting to see a little bit of football again, even if it is just a first pre-season friendly against a bunch of local townsfolk that we've got so far. But yeah, it does start feeling like a new season is on the way, so I'm quite happy about that.
Yes, absolutely. First friendly match, great performance by Lazio, 18-0. I'm going to give you a stat after about this match. But before, let's not forget that Lazio Lounge is the only podcast in English about La Prima Squadra della Capitale. So if Lazio is your team, or you're simply a fan of Serie A and you want to start following one of the biggest teams of Serie A, well, this could be the podcast for you. And not only because I'm here, but because I'm very gentle and kind. And so if you want more news about Lazio, we are here with Alistair McKenzie. First, starting talking about Lazio, a big shout out to OMID SHAKIBAEI. I hope I pronounced it correctly, because he changed his tier. You can support Lazio Lounge on Patreon, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. He changed his tier to tier level 3, because every week you're going to have an exclusive video about Lazio from us. And you can only watch this video if you're going to be level 3 of our Patreon page. So thanks, Omid, for joining us and becoming level 3 of our Patreon. Alistair, did you know that Auronzo, it's 11 years Lazio's playing there, going there in Retiro, and in every friendly match, Auronzo never ever scored a goal against Lazio.
Well, it's almost as if they're completely out of their depth playing against a team from Serie A. Yeah, I feel kind of sorry for them. I mean, they must enjoy it to a certain extent, because for a team like that to be able to play against a Serie A opposition once a year must be quite exciting for them. But it is a bit kind of like bringing lambs to the slaughter. You know, it's the same thing every year, and when it's 18 goals. I mean, you asked me just before we came on if I saw the match, and I said I didn't sit down and watch the 90 minutes, but I pretty much ended up watching a full 90 minutes just because that's how long it took for Lazio to actually score so many goals. But, you know, you got to start somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, I was, every time I watch that friendly, I think, is that the best moment of the year, football-wise, playing against a Serie A team? I don't know. This year they got promoted from Terza Categoria to Second Categoria, so I don't know if that was the best moment of the year, of the football year. But Alistair, even though the Retiro just started, can we say that today, seeing Radu joining the team was probably the best moment so far of the Retiro of Auronzo for Lazio?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what a moment it was. It was great to see, you know, from the moment of him stepping out of the car and the fans being there to greet him, to the, you know, his teammates giving him the kind of guard of honor. I mean, we spoke, it feels like a lot longer than a week ago now, but it wasn't, about the situation, and it seemed pretty bleak, didn't it? It didn't really seem like there was much hope for this to be turning around. From everything that had been written about the situation and said about the situation, it seemed like there was really no hope for Radu's future with Lazio. So for it all to turn around so quickly, I think it's given everyone a boost. I mean, obviously Radu himself, when he had his press conference today, he spoke about feeling liberated by it, spoke about feeling like he's a new signing. So I think for him, his personal perspective, it'll give him a real boost going into the new season, coming through something like this with his reputation intact. But it's definitely, from a fan's perspective, given everyone a lift as well. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, it was huge to see him return in such a manner as he did today, and to know that we've gotten down for a few more years. It's a really good start to the pre-season training, and I'm glad it didn't drag on any longer.
Yeah, there are 2 points for me very important. The first one is, it would have been a terrible way to say goodbye to one of the most iconic players of the last 10 years. You know, Stefan Radu is probably one of the most iconic. You know, a lot of fans identify him as a fan playing for Lazio. And, there was video of him celebrating after a couple of victory of the derby and so on. You really feel that Radu has become a Lazio fan. And so it would have been really bad to say goodbye like that, out of the team, maybe staying 1 year out without playing and so on. The other side is the most technical side, is at the moment Lazio hasn't got that many options in that position, the central left defense position. And so Radu comes in and it's probably already the starter in that position. Then we have to see if in the transfer market someone else would come. But obviously losing Radu, you're losing an experienced player, a player who loved this shirt, a player who in any case can give, it's a leader of the locker room. So it would have been beneficial to have him even if he doesn't play. So we're going to see how much he's going to play. But I thought these are two very important points to have Radu back.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I'd add to that as well is that I think the way he handled the whole thing speaks volumes about what a kind of character he is, and might help some of the people who aren't Lazio fans, perhaps, who don't recognise that there is this connection between him and the fans. Maybe the events of today will help them understand that a bit more, because the way he took responsibility for what's unfolded here, I thought was real credit to him. He put his hands up. He said that his poor behaviour has been down to the way that he's dealt with his own personal situations, and that he's lashed out against the club and his teammates, and he's had to apologise to that. To come out in public and say something like that, it might seem obvious to a lot of people, but if you think about how much player power there is in the game nowadays, what's going on with guys like Mauro Icardi, with Neymar, with Lauren Koscielny, just names off the top of my head. It's not that usual to see a footballer come out and take responsibility for his own bad behaviour like that. And I think it says a lot about him as a person. And if anything, he's come out of this with even more credit than he had before, I'd say.
Yes, and it's funny, Alistair, how many rumours came out in the last couple of weeks, and they were all pointing that the club did something wrong to Radu, wasn't the other way around. So it's good to know that the club was good to solve the problem. Radu, obviously, as you said, made a statement, very important, understand his mistakes, and came back. And I think it's really, really important to have Radu back for various reasons, as I said before. But, Alistair, it's even really, really important for Lazio to have Lazzari even at Auronzo. I mean, how long have we been talking about him last year? And to having him at Auronzo and playing, it's, I think, another very, very good sign for Lazio for this year.
Yeah, I'm still at the stage now where every time I see clips of him in a Lazio shirt or in a training session, I still wonder if I'm actually dreaming or not, because this is something we've been talking about for more than a year. And in that time, my opinion's not changed. I mean, if anything, it's strengthened over time that Lazzari is the perfect fit for Inzaghi's system, and he's exactly the kind of player that this team was missing last season. So it's a really exciting signing, and not only that, but it's a really good deal. I mean, I was pretty stunned, to be honest, that Lazio pulled this off at the price they have, considering how good a season he had with Spal, considering that he's been getting call-ups to the Italy national team, considering he's only 25 years old, and all sorts of big clubs in Italy have been linked with him. It's not only a great deal to get him to the club in the first place, but it's a great deal to get him in on the terms that they have. And I said at the time on Twitter, and I stand by it now, that I think this could well turn out to be one of the best deals that Iglitare has struck. For me, it's right up there with the ones for Immobile and Lucas, and in terms of where the market is right now and the quality of player we're bringing in, it's really took me aback. I was very impressed by it.
Yes, I agree, and I think that having Murgia at Spal was very important, was decisive for this deal, because Spal loved Murgia, wanted to keep him, and obviously they could use Lazzari for that. And the other way around. Lazio could use Murgia as a leverage to get Lazzari, and Lazzari was really keen to come to Rome. Funny thing is, the first match they did at Auronzo, it was between Lazio players. Amazing cross from Lazzari from the right side, and Milinkovic-Savic jumping high over Vavro and hitting at the post. I thought, wow, we're going to see a lot of this season. And then you think about the past, and you go and think, I don't remember a cross like this season.
No.
And this is exactly why you need Lazzari, right?
Exactly. I mean, we've got so accustomed to not seeing our wing-backs put good crosses in. I mean, obviously, part of that from the left-hand side is that Lulic is right-footed, so a lot of the time you don't get the in-swingers coming in from the flank with him. He'll cut back onto his right foot and try and put the ball in that way. But Lulic isn't a particularly gifted crosser of the ball. And on the other sides, Marasic or Romulo, I mean, the right side has just been a bit of a nightmare for the last year anyway. And we got a level of consistency from Romulo, but not enough to really, I don't know, get anyone out of their seats, I'd say. And Marasic was very disappointing last season. So, yeah, it's a huge upgrade, and I think that is a real weapon that we can use next season. His crossing is obviously what's made him the top. I think he got the most assists in Serie A last season, and he had a great link up then with Andrea Battaglia, I think it was. So I think it's useful, like you say, a guy like Milinkovic-Savic, hopefully, if he's still around, having a target like that for who's so good in the air, for a player who's so good at deliveries, is a pretty dangerous combination. So I hope we see more of that and a bit less of Vavro getting beaten to the ball in the air. But I suppose there's two sides to these things.
And do you think that's the reason why Jony is in Auronzo? We found the solution on the right side now with Jony, who had 10 assists, more than 10 assists this year in La Liga, is a solution to solve the left problem, as you were saying, with Lulic struggling with crosses.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of signing because Jony is a natural winger. You know, he's been playing as a winger in a forward line rather than as a wing back. So he's got a bit of adjustment to do. I don't see that signing being quite as effortless as Lazzari will. I mean, that's one of the great things about Lazzari as a signing is that he's been playing in a similar system with Spal, and you can pretty much just drop him in there and he'll get going and he'll know how to do it and how to operate. Jony, I think it'll take a bit longer for him to adapt. Obviously, he's going to be a much more attack-minded player, so defensively he might need a bit of protection. And if anything, that puts a lot more pressure on whoever is in that left centre-back position. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see him get up and running. I mean, I don't think either of us have watched an awful lot of him play in Spain, so it's still. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got. But yeah, hopefully in a later episode as well, we will be able to get somebody who'll give us a bit of insight into Jony as well and what he can offer.
One of the funniest thing about this week, Alistair, was what happened to Jony. Lazio tweeted a picture a couple of days ago with Jony arriving to Rome, and the president of Malaga replied on Twitter, "That's a mistake. I didn't sign nothing." I mean, I don't remember something like that happening ever.
Only in Lazio. Yeah, and it's a bit strange when you see a player turning up for the pre-season training camp and they've still not officially announced it. But surely if there's ever a sign that is going to get over the line, it is that. But yeah, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I never feel entirely comfortable until everything is really kind of officially done and dusted. But it will be interesting to see what he can offer. I think for me as well, Lulic, it's probably getting to the point where they recognise his importance as a squad member, as a captain and everything else, but I don't know if the influence he has actually on the pitch is capable of being enough to take us to the Champions League now. So I think Lulic's role next season, in my mind, might be lessened a bit. I don't know if he'll be starting every single game in the same way that he was last season. Perhaps we need to be looking to the future a little bit more. I still expect him to play a big role, but maybe this will be the season where he starts kind of getting a few less games to save his legs and to give other guys a chance.
I agree with you, but I fear that he will start probably the season because Jony have to get used to the Serie A. That is a different football from La Liga, and in particular, as you were saying before, he is playing in a different scheme, and he's not very good, or at least he didn't try a 3-5-2, and so we don't know how he will cope when he has to defend and don't have anybody behind him to help him doing that. So probably he will have to learn all that, and that's a big question mark. We know that he's very good when he has to attack. He has to learn how to defend, and probably that's why I believe at the beginning Lulic will start, and then maybe Jony pick up, maybe starting playing in Europe League, and then we see how things go. But said that, Alistair, on the left side, Durmisi is there. He joined Auronzo tonight. It was a little bit of surprise because a lot of website about Lazio was saying that he was done. He would even do the medicals directly sold. Instead, he's there. And now, waiting for Lukaku, that everybody said that when he's going to be fit, he's going to join the team at Auronzo. Lazio has Lulic, Jony, Durmisi, and Lukaku all playing on the left side. I think that there are far too many. I don't think they're going to be all in the squad at the beginning of the season.
No, I doubt it. And the funny thing is, it looks like at the moment the one who's least likely to be there is Durmisi. And that's a bit of a strange situation considering Jordan Lukaku has been almost completely phased out of the team over the last year. Obviously came very close to joining Newcastle back in January. He's had fitness problems, injury problems, and yet he still seems a little bit more likely than Durmisi to be around as things stand. And there's been a lot of reports about various offers coming in for Durmisi, but I don't know, it was something I was wanting to ask you about. I mean, today the latest one I read was about Besiktas coming in wanting... I think it's a loan deal with the obligation to then buy for 6 million. Considering the fact that we've only had this guy in the squad for 1 year, he's not really had too many opportunities. He's had injury problems in that time as well. He's come from a new league, and the fact that as well we spent more than that to bring him in the first place. How do you feel about that? I mean, I feel like it's a bit of a missed opportunity, and if we were to let him go on those kind of terms.
You know, people like Rami will gonna hammer us for this, but even watching his social account, all this video he did of him training, etc., I believe this year, if Durmisi is gonna have the chance, he's gonna be good. And as you were saying, if Lazio is gonna sell him to Marseille because it's one of the team he has been linked, I think he's going to be having a great season. So, especially with this, as we were saying before, you know, Lulic is getting old. I don't think he's going to be able to play all those matches. Jony, it's a little bit of a question mark. No one have doubts of him attacking, but what about the defense side of it? Especially in a 3-5-2, it's very important. So, you know, I think at the end, you said Lukaku is a question mark. We don't know if he's going to be fit or not. So, at the end, I think Durmisi kind of understand that, hey, if I can make them understand that I want to stay, maybe I can get a chance and play and prove everybody that, hey, I deserve to be here. And I think, you know, he's really focused for that. And that's really important. When you see a player focus, I don't know, you see Lukaku at McDonald's, that's not a very good sign. You see Durmisi lifting weight during his summer holidays, that's a good sign. So the biggest question mark I have, Alistair, is Inzaghi convinced of Durmisi, or is someone he doesn't trust anymore and doesn't want? Because if he was up for it last year, then give him a chance this year in Auronzo and see how he plays. Because maybe, as you were saying, last year he has been very unlucky. Maybe this year he can prove everybody wrong. He was playing in a 4-man defense, so he know how to defend. I every time, especially at the beginning of the season, when he played, you can see that there was something there. He was a little bit unlucky. I remember the injury he had in Europe League that was awful. But I really feel there's something there on the play. I know a lot of us followers will disagree, but yeah, I would give him a chance.
Yeah, you've made a few good points there. I think he's...
Sorry.
And I always kind of have said, so I'd be a hypocrite if I went against it now, that when a player arrives in Serie A from a completely different league, I always think they deserve a second season. Unless things go horribly wrong, I think that you need to give guys patience, and especially when you have a campaign that's interrupted by injury as well. And yet, there is reason for the club to maybe say, right, let's cut our losses here. We gave it a go and it's not worked. I think what you said about Inzaghi is right on the money, because that's what he needs to do. The club are going to listen to Inzaghi, we know that, and it's really up to Dermisi to convince Inzaghi that he has the right attitude. And that's one of Inzaghi's real merits as a coach, is that he is, he will give people chance. He doesn't write people off and get into fights with players and get in a mood and things like this. If players are showing the right attitude and the right willingness to try and fight for a place in his team, he is going to give them a shot sooner or later. So, yeah, for me, it's really up to Dermisi now and his own attitude and his own application in this pre-season, because in my mind, I think he deserves at least another 6 months, at least that in this team, to see if he's capable of improving. And if not, then maybe let him go at that stage. But letting him go on loan with 6 million coming in after a year just seems a bit pointless, a bit of a wasted opportunity.
And one thing important, Alistair, that I think has a little bit reason here is in the friendly match, in the second half, Acerbi played left in the midfield, in the 5 midfield, because Lulic played the first half, and then we didn't have anybody else there because, as I said, Lukaku was not there, Durmisi wasn't called, Jony still didn't sign. So you see that at the moment we are lacking of option. Now, Jony have arrived, Durmisi's there. So I think in the next matches they will have chance to play, because let's not forget that against Auronzo, Milinkovic-Savic, Immobile didn't play, and Felipe Luis and Marusic. So I think Inzaghi will try to rotate them. And again, I believe Durmisi has a chance. And for me, the reason why Durmisi is here today at Auronzo is because Inzaghi said, hey, wait a minute, we don't have that many options there. Let me call Durmisi. He's still a player. We didn't find a deal for him. So let's give him a chance and see how he performed here in Auronzo. So I really think that he can prove everybody wrong here. And I hope he does. He's still a Lazio player. And as you were saying, he has been really unlucky.
And what about Badel? Do you think Badel, who also arrived at Auronzo today, is he there for any reason other than to wait for a move away? Can you see him getting his place back in the team?
Well, this is another discussion, because if you remember, in the past, Lazio had like 35 players there in Auronzo. This year, the numbers are much lower. And now, in the central midfield, Lazio has Cataldi, Milinkovic-Savic, Parolo, Luis Alberto, Andre Anderson, that is very interesting player. So, they're not that much. So, I think Badel, again, can prove everybody wrong playing at Auronzo. But at the same time, he's not happy. He wants to be a starter. And obviously, with Leva, you cannot have it. And especially if you want to compete with a big team, you have to understand that you have to fight for your job, and you're not going to be the starter every single match. So, again, it depends from the offer. What I know is that Lazio is asking something around 7-8 million euros. They won't let him go for free. So, again, if a team comes and offer that type of money, I think he can go, even because I believe Inzaghi reconsidered Cataldi last year. He saw that he can be a decent replacement for for Leva, I think Cataldi have shown that he can play in different position in the central midfielder, so he can be, the sixth player, as you were saying in basketball, the subs that come in when you're missing one. So I think Badel is a player you can let go. Obviously, you have to meet the request of Lazio that it's at least 7 million euros.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of fans, actually, the idea of having Cataldi as a number 2 in that position is probably quite appealing, because we said it quite a lot last season, but every chance he's got, he's taken. And he's talking about Inzaghi appreciating players who show the right application. He's a great example of that. I mean, it really wasn't that long ago that Cataldi was considered to not really have a future at Lazio. And now the only talk's really about a new contract and getting back in the team more regularly. So that's come from his own attitude, his own hard work. And yeah, I think that it kind of goes to show it's an example which the rest of them can follow, I suppose.
Yep. Alistair, let's talk a little bit about the friendly match, the 18-0. And this was the first time that Lazio played only 80 minutes instead of the regular 90, so that's why probably we didn't win 20-0 like last year. And there are a couple of good things I want to talk about, and the number one for me is Luis Alberto. We saw finally the Luis Alberto we were used to see 2 years ago, and let's not forget that last year Luis Alberto was at Auronzo, yes, but he was recovering from the injury he had. In fact, if you remember, he didn't play the friendly match. He wasn't training with the rest of the team. This year, he's there. He's playing. And you can see that it's a different player. Inzaghi tried him in the first half as the normal position, I would say, in the 3 central midfielder. In the second half, he played trequartista, as we saw it the first year. And in both positions, he played really well. I think this is a very good sign for Lazio, because we have to be honest, Luis Alberto is the only regista Lazio has, the only one who can dictate the tempo of this team, and seeing him playing like that is really positive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to take it with a pinch of salt, given the level of the opposition. He didn't have his hardest day. He had a lot more time on the ball than he's going to get in more competitive games, but I think what you said about the fact that he's here at the start of pre-season and he's already looking sharp and looking fit, that's something that we shouldn't really underestimate. And if you turn back to last summer, you can kind of see some of the signs about why the season started quite slowly. Players like Milinkovic, Savic and Alberto both having such disrupted pre-seasons, whether that be extra time off or time recovering from injuries. And how much time do we spend last summer talking about pubalgia, which I don't think I'd ever mentioned before in my life. So yeah, I mean, it's just really positive for me to see this full squad together. The one kind of dark shadow that was looming over it was the Radu situation. Now that's been cleared up. Already got 4 new signings for the time of Auronzo starting, and no real big fitness issues. I know Luis Felipe is working through some problems, so Strakosha. There are a few things here and there, but there's no real, nothing that looks serious long term. So I think in general, just the way this Auronzo retreat has started is already more positive than last season. And yeah, I think Alberto's a good example to use from that, I suppose, because yeah, look back a year and it's not quite so good. I mean, something else that stood out for me from that friendly match while we're on it was Adekanye's goal. You got to mention it. I saw that getting recirculated by non-Lazio outlets, so you know it must be a pretty good friendly match goal if that happens. So yeah, I'm excited to see a bit more of him in some more competitive games.
Okay, I saw the match and a couple of points. First of all, I was surprised because Inzaghi played Luis Alberto trequartista and Adekanye centravanti, which I don't think is his position. He's really fast, but he missed 3 unbelievable chances. And if you miss 3 unbelievable chances against Auronzo, then, I start to get scared. And then he scored 2 goals that make up a little bit of his mistakes. But I'm not sure he's the number 9. He's not the Vice Immobile. He should be playing near Ciro Immobile, not replacing Ciro Immobile. And at the same time, Caicedo in the first half missed a couple of very good chances against Auronzo. And the 2 goals was another magician of Luis Alberto and deflection of the goalkeeper who left the ball there on the line. So probably even you could have scored that one. So this is a little bit concerning me and brings up the question that we've been talking for 1 year, I would say. Is Caicedo the Vice Immobile? Is Adekanya the Vice Immobile? Adekanya would say no. Caicedo, yeah, he played well last year, but I'm not still convinced 100%.
No, yeah, and this for me is one of the real big talking points that's left in our whole summer mercato here is the Caicedo question. Because it's been quite an interesting way this has gone, where a lot of fans anyway you speak to don't think Caicedo, despite having a good season, and he's a very popular player now, but I still don't think that anyone truly believes that he's the Vice Immobile who's going to take us to the Champions League, even if he has a good season. And for me, he's not a Vice Immobile in any case, because he's someone who can kind of complement a striker rather than leading the line and being at the end of all these moves himself. I mean, there were a few exceptions to that rule, obviously. In the derby, for example, he had a really good game leading the line, but in general, I think his strength hasn't been in that number 9 role. It's been playing alongside someone else who's capable of doing that. So yeah, I think that's still for me a big issue, and one of the things that's concerned me is seeing the fact that he was linked with moves away to China, to the UAE, where he could have made a lot of money and was supposedly quite tempted by that option. But Inzaghi apparently is very keen on having him around and very keen on him being that guy next season. I'm just concerned that it's not enough. I mean, given how much pressure there really is on the coming campaign to make a real improvement, to make a real push for the top 4, I'm not expecting that Caicedo, coming off a good season, is going to suddenly be a 15-goal-a-season striker, a 20-goal-a-season striker. That's just not going to happen. I mean, I'll very happily be proved wrong about that, but I just don't see it happening. So for me, I still think that's a position that really requires a quality, as in a Lazzari level player to come in. But then the problem is that you can't sell that role to any ambitious player as being, do you want to come and be a Vice Immobile? Who's going to sign up for that, really? So there's only really space for one traditional number 9 kind of striker in this team, and Immobile is so untouchable in that role most of the time that it might be a hard sell for them to actually find ambitious, talented players who are willing to make that sacrifice.
And especially, I think, if you don't sell Caicedo, you cannot go and buy someone at that level. I think Lazio should try to find someone that can compete for the starting job with Ciro Immobile. But with Caicedo there is no reason to do it. I mean, you cannot have 3 good strikers fighting for one spot. So that's my bigger problem.
Yeah, that's why I thought that Wesley Moraes. I don't know an awful lot about him as a player. I've read bits and bobs, seen bits and bobs, but he was the right kind of profile of player for me for that position, because you're talking about a guy who's young enough that there's potential improvement to come from him. He's got enough experience that he's not going to be totally overawed by the step up into Serie A, but at the same stage, he wouldn't have been able to really arrive at the club immediately demanding a number 1 spot ahead of a guy like Immobile. So obviously that one's passed us by, but that kind of profile of player, young, of a decent pedigree, but not at the stage yet to really say that they should be the number 1 every week. That would be the kind of player that I would hope to try and bring in this market.
Yeah, I agree, but it looks like Lazio didn't even start the discussion this year, because before they had to sell Caicedo or see if they could keep Caicedo, and then they were going after a replacement. So it looks like Caicedo will stay. That's what he said as well when he started doing the medical at the Padella this last week. So I believe he's going to be the Vice Immobile. With Adekanye, that's a question mark where he's going to play. Again, Inzaghi played him as a central striker in the friendly match. In the friendly match Lazio did the day before between themselves, again, Inzaghi played two teams playing 3-5-2, so it looks like that's going to be the scheme even this year. And he played Caicedo and Adekanye together. So I don't know if he's trying to mix up things and see what works better. But I can see Adekanye playing instead of Correa. They're both speedy, fast players, but I don't think both of them are as central striker like Ciro Immobile.
No, yeah, and with Adekanye anyway, I mean, when we had Neil Atkinson on telling us about him, it did sound like his strength is in his pace, and being in those wide positions is the area of the pitch that really he can make the most out of that. So, yeah, it's feels a little bit like trying to put, a round peg in a square hole, or I've got that the wrong way around, but it was the same kind of thing with Pedro Neto. You've got this immensely talented young player, but there's just no role for him, particularly in this team. So you're trying to kind of invent a kind of position for him, and at that young age, it is possible, but it's not the same thing, especially when you've got lofty ambitions like finishing in the top four. You don't really have the luxury of the time that it takes to make that work. So that's my main concern, I suppose, in that role.
Yeah, and this brings me to the question I always have, is why Adekanye came to Lazio, knowing that he's more a winger, that Lazio play with a 3-5-2, knowing that Lazio ambition is to fight for the Champions League. So why are you coming to a team where you know that you could struggle to find some time to play?
Well, it must have been something that they've talked about. I mean, you would like to think so anyway. I don't know if, obviously, the first pre-season friendly, this Auronzo game, Inzaghi's gone back to the 3-5-2. We've not really seen or heard many indications that that's going to change over the course of the next season. But if there is a change in formation, that is likely to be the moment when we need wingers. And the thing is, he might have that in mind, because 3-5-2 at times, last season anyway, there was quite a lot of pressure in Inzaghi to change, to try something new. And he did do that at times. We did see him alternate to a 4-3-3, usually during matches or as a last resort kind of situation. But it did happen. The weakness there, though, was that this squad just doesn't have natural wingers in it. So when we were changing to 4-3-3 last season, you'd have Pedro Neto and you'd have Tucu Correa. And then beyond that, there weren't really any natural wingers in this squad. You've got guys like Sena Lulic who can play there, Adam Maricic who can play there, even Alberto who's played out there in his first season. But there is a lack of depth in that position if it's something that Inzaghi decides to change to. So I wonder if by bringing in Jony, by bringing in Adekanye, yes, they're going to try and use these guys in new roles, a wing back or a number 10 or a striker. But it gives Inzaghi the license that when he feels like changing to a 4-3-3 or whatever it is, a 4-2-3-1, a system that he needs wingers, he now has them. He now has two more players in his squad who are actually natural in that position. So I do wonder if the fact that they've been brought in is an indication that he might use that system a little bit more next season. I'm not talking about an overall system change, but just something that he does during games a bit more often, perhaps.
Which I understand, but he has to practice now, try them now, where he have time to test them, and he didn't. So that's my biggest concern. But
he's had one game. It could still. I would expect it to happen still.
Yeah, but I mean, I rate more important the friendly match he did on Saturday between Lazio players than the one against Auronzo, and both team he had was playing with 3-5-2, even though one team had Milinkovic-Savic playing on the left side of the five midfielder, Correa and Ciro Immobile there, it was a very, very offensive 3-5-2. He could have tested a 4-3-3 there, but he still stick with that. So I don't know. We're gonna see. Again, Jony, Adekanye, they are all wingers theoretically. So he has the team, but we're gonna see what he has on mind. I mean, that's the most important part, right? Inzaghi, if he feels he wants to insist with the 3-5-2, then this is how things will go.
Yeah, and I'm sure he will, which is why I'm not surprised to see him start the season doing that, because that is going to be his go-to formation. That is going to be the one he wants to train the team in predominantly, because it's the system he's going to use predominantly. But I would expect him to tinker with a 4-3-3 during this pre-season at some point, because I feel like last season when we went to use it, it was a bit of a confused mess in a way, because the team would switch to that formation, but it was quite clear that they hadn't really spent any time operating in that system. So I think that's something that you can use this pre-season training camp to do, and also it's great. Like I already said, it's great to have such a big squad fully fit who are capable of doing that from an early point as well. It's a good time to do some kind of tactical training, I suppose, because everyone's available.
Yep. Alistair, I think we can wrap it up here, waiting for maybe a new signing next week. Who knows? I mean, Lazio have been really active, it's surprisingly. I never remember a starting of season of the calciomercato like that, with Lazio signing 4 players. I still have to recall something like that. I think last time was with Cragnotti, probably.
Yeah, well, the days are coming back. Scudetto is next.
Don't say. Anyway, thank you very much, Alistair, for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for listening us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Lazio Lounge, on Twitter, twitter.com/Lazio Lounge. And obviously, remember, you can support Lazio Lounge becoming a Patreon on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts from just $2 a month. It is less than a cappuccino a month. And with $10 a month, you can have access to our weekly videos, exclusive video for tier 3 of our Patreon page, only $10 a month. So if you like the show and want us to support us, that's the way to do it. So thank you again, Alistair. Thanks for everybody to listen to our show and to support us. We're going to talk next week. Bye.